Human excretory system. In humans, the excretory system consists of a pair of kidneys, one pair of ureters, a urinary bladder and a urethra. Here you can see a pair of kidneys, a pair of ureters and a single urinary bladder and urethra. Kidneys are reddish brown bean-shaped structures situated between the levels of last thoracic and third lumbar vertebrae close to the dorsal inner wall of the abdominal cavity. Here you can see the location of kidneys just below the diaphragm, one on either side of the vertebral column. Each kidney of an adult human measures 10 to 12 cm in length, 5 to 7 cm in width and 2 to 3 cm in thickness and an average weight of 120 to 170 gram. Here is the structure of whole human excretory system. Observe and try to understand. Towards the center of the inner concave surface of the kidney is a notch called hilum through which urethra, blood vessel and nerves enter. Here you can see the notch through which the urethra, blood vessels, etc. enter. Observe the location of hilum. Inner to the hilum is a broad funnel-shaped space called the renal pelvis with projections called calyces. So here it is marked there the calyx. Here you can see the outer surface of the kidney, namely cortex, inner to which is the medulla. Medulla have a lot of projections called medullary pyramids also observable, and renal pelvis, renal column also. Inside the kidney there are two zones, an outer cortex and an inner medulla. Just once again observe the diagram, clearly marked cortex and medulla here. The medulla is divided into a few conical masses projecting into the calyces. The cortex extends in between the medullary pyramids as renal columns called columns of Bertini. Here you can see the cortex and the medulla. Medulla forms a number of medullary pyramids. In between the medullary pyramids, you can see here the renal column extends and it is called column of Bertini. Each kidney has nearly 1 million complex tubular structures called nephrons, which are the functional units of excretory system. Here you can see the structural and functional unit of excretory system, namely nephron. The anterior end has a cup-shaped part, namely Bowman's capsule. So each nephron has two parts, the glomerulus and the renal tubule. Glomerulus is the tuft of capillaries formed by the afferent arteriole, which is a fine branch of renal artery. It is shown here, afferent arteriole. The glomerulus also visible and the Bowman's capsule also. Blood from the glomerulus is carried away by an efferent arteriole. The renal tubule begins with a double-walled cup-like structure called Bowman's capsule, which encloses the glomerulus we have explained earlier. Now the glomerulus along with the Bowman's capsule is called Malpighian body or renal corpuscle. Now the tubule continue further to form coiled network called proximal convoluted tubule, marked there. Observe and try to understand. Again, a hairpin shaped Henle's loop or loop of Henle. It is the next part of the tubule. So this Henle's loop has two limbs, one descending limb and an ascending limb. That also is marked there. Now the ascending limb continues as another highly coiled tubular region, that is called a DCT or distal convoluted tubule. So here you can see the glomerulus and Bowman's capsule together. We will say as a Malpighian body or renal corpuscle. Here is the explanation once again. The renal tubule begins with a double-walled cup-like structure called Bowman's capsule, which encloses the glomerulus. Glomerulus along with the Bowman's capsule is called Malpighian body or renal corpuscle. Once again, a colorful diagram of the nephron is shown here. Different parts are labeled there. Observe and try to understand. The tubule continues further to form a highly coiled network, namely a proximal convoluted tubule or PCT in short. A hairpin-shaped Henle's loop is the next part of the tubule which has a descending and ascending limb. The ascending limb continues as another highly called tubular region that is called a distal convoluted tubule or DCT. DCTs of many nephrons open into a straight tube called collecting duct, many of which converge and open into renal pelvis through medullary pyramid. The efferent arteriole emerging from the glomerulus forms a fine capillary network around the renal tubule called the peritubular capillaries. Here you can see the efferent arteriole emerging from the glomerulus and it forms a capillary network around the renal tubule that is called peritubular capillaries. Now, a minute vessel of this network runs parallel to the Henle's loop forming a U-shaped vasa recta. Labeled below vasa recta very clearly. Observe and try to understand. So this structure is absent or highly reduced in cortical nephrons about which we will discuss now. Now the explanation once again. A minute vessel of this network runs parallel to the Henle's loop called the vasa recta which is absent or highly reduced in cortical nephron. Now the Malpighian corpuscle, PCT and DCT of the nephron are situated in the cortical region of the kidney whereas the loop of Henle dips into the medulla. Here is a longitudinal section of kidney. Try to locate the Malpighian corpuscle that is Bowman's capsule, glomerulus, PCT, DCT etc. will be situated in the cortex region and loop of Henle dip into the medulla. In majority of nephrons, the loop of Henle is too short and extends only very little into the medulla and such nephrons are called cortical nephrons. Whereas in some of the nephrons, loop of Henle is very long and runs deep into the medulla and these nephrons are called juxtamedullary nephrons. Observe and try to understand the previously posted diagram. Hope you understood the concept well.